and have no conviction, leave that church. If you shacking up with somebody and you can go to church shacking up and your pastor doesn't, you don't feel a conviction about that and you can go to church every week, leave that church. If you can sin every week and then stumble on into church and be in leadership, if your leadership allows you to live a riotous life all through the week and come to church and call yourself leading other people, leave that church. Listen, if your pastor has a girlfriend, your deacons have other women on the side, leave that church. Now you saying that's pretty bold, Pastor Don. That's pretty bold. What I am saying, as a believer in Jesus Christ, our lives should be distinctly different than those who live in the world. God called us out of the world to walk in the marvelous light. We ought not walk in darkness. And listen, it's not that people don't sin, but listen, when you come to church, you ought to feel like you're in a place that's going to hold you to God's standard. In this post-modern world, anybody can live any kind of way, and folk are afraid that if they address sin, then people are going to leave, and if people leave, then they're taking their money with them, and if they take their money with them, then the doors of that organization is going to church and is going to close. And I repeat, it is an organization, but it is not the church, because Christ is building his church. He doesn't need your money. He says, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. We're not doing God a favor to be living in sin and then paying tipping God on Sundays. Listen, I'm being very, very, very serious. Listen, there are those who think they can live a sinful lifestyle and just come and give, and God is, oh, okay, I'm cool with that. No. Now, where am I? These four things. Listen, there's so much mess out there. And God is coming back for his bride, the church, the ecclesia, without spot or wrinkle. Listen, we ought to be doing our very best to live a life that is pleasing to him. We all say, we want to hear him say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. But are we living as servants who are doing all that God has called us to do? And if we're not, then it's unlikely that we will hear the words, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Yeah, you'll get into heaven, because we get into heaven not based on what we do. We get into heaven, we are saved by grace through faith and not of works, lest any man should boast. Salvation is the gift of God. So we get to heaven, but listen, there are rewards that will follow. He says it's my judgment that we're not going to trouble the Gentiles that's converting to Christianity. We're not going to trouble them. We're not going to make them try to observe a law that we couldn't observe ourselves. But there are some things that need to be addressed so that there will be fellowship among the Jews and the Gentiles. And the first is highlighted in verse 28. He says, but that we write to them, and that they abstain from things contaminated by idols. Abstain from eating defiled food. As I said, that the Gentiles were pagans, and they had many practices in paganism, and much of their practice was idolatry, the worship of idols, and so on and so forth. And so what the Jerusalem Council decided, that we're not going to make them get circumcised realizing, because we're no longer under law, we're under grace. But I'll share here in a moment, we are under another law. But he says, I want you to understand that you must abstain from eating defiled food. That's food that is offered to idols. What these people would do, these Gentiles would do, is they would go into these temples or what have you, where the idols were, and they would offer meat or sacrifices to these idols. And then what they would do is they would take the meat that was offered to the idols, and then they would sell that meat to the meat markets. And so the Jews who understood that the meat, the animals that were sacrificed, they were taking the meat, selling it to the meat markets. The Jews were highly offended by eating meat that was offered to an idol. So the Jerusalem Council said, well, here's what we got to do. We're going to abstain from eating meats or foods that is defiled, because when you offer it to an idol in the mind of a Jew, that was defiled. So he says the first thing I want you to do is abstain from things contaminated by idols. Now, what is an idol? In that context, an idol was basically something wooden or some type of image or something that was worshipped and revered by the people. Now, in our day, there are all kind of idols. In fact, we don't think that we can become idolatrous. An idol is anything or anyone that you put on the throne of God. If your children are your priority, if you're not careful, you can be a child idol. Your church can be an idol. Your job can be an idol. Your stuff can be your idol. You can be your idol. Y'all know that's the American way. We have what is it, the American Idol? We can worship. This is the season for football idolatry. Hurry up, Pastor. Right? Oh, it ain't that bad, right? Yeah. Man, you need to hurry up. The Browns coming on. An idol is anything or anyone that you put on the throne of God. If you put anything, if you make anything in your life more of a priority than God himself, you are an idolater. But in this context, it was basically those offering sacrifices. I guess like in our modern day would be like a Buddha would be an idol. You ever, or even a Mary. You know, people have these images of Mary, and that's idolatry. Listen, if you're praying to Mary, this image of Mary, you're an idolater. Listen, you might be sincere, but you are sincerely wrong and praying to Mary. Now, I'm not saying Catholics are not saved, because I've got some friends that are 100% Catholic and they're 100% saved and they love the Lord. But if you're not careful, you start worshiping images and things and not God, you become an idolater. So he says to them, all right, we want the Jews and the Gentiles to have fellowship, koinonia, among each other. So there's some things that's got to happen. The first thing that's got to happen is you've got to abstain from eating defiled food. Second one, abstain from sexual perversion. He says, but we write to them that they abstain from things contaminated by idols and from fornication. Now, we don't hear this word that often because fornication is the American way. We just assume in this sexual revolution that we're in that it's okay to be sexual with someone when you're not married. Got shows that encourage you to do that because after all, you need to make sure that you are compatible, right? That's sin. We spend so much time focusing on the transgenderism and homosexuality and all of these other isms, but you got to understand that these Gentile pagans, fornication was an issue with them, and it's an issue with us. We don't like to talk about it that much because, hey, I ain't no homosexual. It's almost like you celebrating the fact that you're a fornicator, but you are not a homosexual. And we lose our testimony among those who are lost when we are focusing on the bad sinners as opposed to not so bad sinners. Well, at least I'm hetero. I'm doing my thing, but I'm doing my thing with somebody of the opposite sex. I'm cool with that. No, listen, God's not cool with it. Listen, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Listen, here's what happens. When you have, by the way, sex is a wonderful thing. It is, but here's how the enemy has deceived us. We talk so much about the negative, what we can't do. Listen, God is not trying to keep you from the best. He is trying to keep you for the best. Sex is a wonderful thing. We don't like to talk about it in scenes and settings like this because it makes people feel real, uncomfortable because I see some of y'all uncomfortable right now. But the text is talking about it, so I got to talk about it. That's one of the problems with expository preaching. You can't skip over the stuff that you don't want to talk about. But these Gentiles, they were a part of their religious practice, for the most part, was that they would engage in these sexual activities during the worship. That was a part of their worship. And so what the Jerusalem Council is saying is, listen, abstain from that. And by the way, that's not a new law. Fornication has always been a sin in the eyes of God. Amen? Boy, everybody got their head down. Nobody, look at me, y'all. Yeah, I'm just a messenger. I'm just trying to tell y'all what this passage is saying. And so it says, abstain from eating food that was offered to idols. I got that. That's no problem. Abstain from fornication. Listen, you can't, listen. Sex outside of marriage is sin. Say that with me. It was, it is, it will always be. Well, a man gotta do. Let me tell you something. I'm being very honest. One of the fruits, when it talks about in Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit, young people, y'all need to hear this. Old people, you need to model it. You need to model this. I understand that we all sin and we all fall short of the, I get that. But God's standard does not change. One of the things that is highlighted as a fruit of the Spirit in Galatians is self-control. Listen to me, singles. You don't keep that person by being sexually involved with them. If you